On this episode, we talk with Shea Sen of Silver Lining Home Service. Silver Lining is a moving company that helps people transition from location to location, but they also have a heart for the seniors. They help seniors transition from their homes to possibly a care facility and sometimes in an emergency situation. They help them deal with their items that people don't know what to deal with. They can help dispose of things, they can help people go through recycling or even selling their items. But they take care of them with respect. It's a great story. I know you'll like listening to Shea. He's got an amazing story. Please like and subscribe. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Hole in the Wall Business Podcast with Bill and James. I'm James Groves, and along with my business partner, Bill Dement, we want to share our journey as small business owners with you. As owners of Hole in the Wall Drywall Repair, we will attempt to peel back the curtain of owning a small business in the trade service industry and talk about the many adventures of owning a small business. Hey, Bill.
Hey, James. I just wanted to mention there are a lot of adventures in owning a small business, isn't there?
An endless line of adventures. I kind of like it, though. Each day keeps us on our toes.
So. And today's guest is a small businessman, and he we've known him for a while.
Yeah,
and been through a few ups and downs with him. And he has had some adventures, and he can tell a good story.
Well, when you talk to somebody who has been in business in general, most of his life, started multiple businesses, there are going to be some stories, and I know that we all can learn something from him. So I am pleased to introduce our good friend, Shea Sen. Shea is the owner of Silver Lining Home Services. Shea?
Welcome in.
Thank you. Happy to finally be here. I know you guys have been inviting me for a long time.
We've had a few challenges, but you're here, and frankly, I think it's important that my audience kind of knows who you are and your story. You have so many cool things that you've been a part of, some of which Bill doesn't even know about yet. I can't wait to talk about some of the audio stuff, and then just how you even got to where you are now, and some of the cool things you got going on with Silver Lining. So let's just take a second. Let's kind of get so my audience gets to know who you are. Kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what led you to where you are right now.
Well, it's been a long and wonderful story. Like you mentioned, a few bumps in the road, but learned from all of them, and am excited to finally be in a place where I can really, through Silver Linings, focus on the things I've learned through these 6 businesses I owned before. So, quick background. I sailed into New York Harbor in 1967 on the SS United States with my dad, who's from India, and my mom, who's German. We came over because my dad did some work designing bridges for the DOD in Germany after World War II, and then they invited him over. So came to the States and became a U.S. citizen when I was 14.
Wow.
Joined the Air Force when I was 18, and have just had an amazing ride in this country that's given us so much opportunity. And I'm excited to be able to give back in multiple ways.
That's what's nice, because I think you're about to talk. Sorry, Bill.
That's all right.
It's nice that, because your heart isn't, I'm in it to make a lot of money. Your heart is, I want to make a living for my family, but you want to give back. Every time, I've known you for 3-4 years now, maybe longer. You've always been someone who just kind of wants to make sure you're giving back to the community, and because that benefits. That's kind of who we are. We want people to buy a franchise.
We absolutely
and take it into their community, and it benefits their community to have a successful, integrity-based business person that is not just out there to line their pockets. So,
well, I have always felt that the true definition of a successful business is a business that delivers on its promises, right? That serves its customers well, that creates an environment where the team members can grow and achieve their goals by doing what the business and the clients need them to do, that adds value to the partners, the other stakeholders, whether they're referral partners or vendors, and gives back to the community. And I'll never apologize about being a capitalist. I've got a family to feed. I've got a business I want to build.
Here.
I've got 2 granddaughters on the way that I'm going to want to spoil, and I need more resources to do that.
oh yeah,
But you can do all of that and do good if you lead with a servant's heart and integrity and be very transparent about what you're doing.
Yeah. So I'm curious, you mentioned both in the pre-show and just earlier in the broadcast already that you have been in 7 businesses. Can you recount some of those and kind of give us some of your experiences with those businesses?
Yeah, I mean, so the very first business I started was in high school when I didn't want to go work at McDonald's. And I saw a need out there, and I started a business called College Bound Lawn Care. And went out to, I don't know, it might have been Minuteman Press or one of these, old print shops, and I made up 50 business cards and started going around my neighborhood saying, hey, you know me, I'm in high school, I want to save money for college, will you let me mow your lawn? That turned into 18 high school students working for me, and when my senior year in high school, we actually sold the route to a local lawn care company, right? Wow. And what that taught me was if you provide opportunity for people, they're going to work to achieve their own goals. And if you provide your customers a better reason to do business with you, look, a lot of our customers were perfectly capable of mowing their own lawn. But they love the idea that here's a bunch of high school students who are willing to sweat in the hot sun to save some money for college, right? I did that. And then started a company, you'll see a pattern here, right? Home Services Solutions. Started a company called Security Solutions that was a local alarm company in high school with a buddy of mine who was a really geeky guy who had some cool ideas. We did that. We ended up selling that off in our senior year, right? Went to college.
She had 2 businesses by the time you left high school.
Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And what state was that in?
In Massachusetts, just south of Boston, on the South Shore of Boston. Nice. Right? So went to college, Boston University Business School and computer sciences, where I learned a whole bunch about programming languages that 2 years later the PC came out, and that was the end of that.
That was the end of it.
Right? But also in the Air Force, and in the Air Force I learned a lot about team building and leadership and policies and procedures and systems and shared values and shared goals. Had always been interested in electronics, and I thought I was going to have a career in the Air Force, and then the Berlin Wall came down, and the number one reason why what I did in the Air Force existed went away, because the Soviet Union went away, and it was time for another career.
Oh, wow.
Right? So had always been into audio-video equipment, and because of my travels in Europe and some work I had done in some local hi-fi shops, there was this brand called Bang & Olufsen, which was a really high-end electronics line. They invented the remote control, house-wide music, a bunch of stuff.
Know them well.
And
big deal.
And they were being sold in regular audio stores. And it was kind of like trying to sell a Ferrari at a Chevy dealership, right? Chevys are great. The trucks are amazing, but they're not a Ferrari. And if you know enough to sell a truck well, you probably don't know enough to sell a Ferrari well. Well, in Europe, they had their own branded stores. It's actually where companies like Bose got the idea of having their own branded store.
Right.
So 3 friends of mine and I started the first Bang & Olufsen store, privately held Bang & Olufsen store in Boston in 1989. By the time we were done, we had 15 locations from Boston to Denver, about 100 salespeople, 150 installers, and there were 50 stores in North America. We owned 15 of them, and 17 of the rest were owned by folks that used to work for us as managers that we helped put into business.
Oh, wow.
So that taught me a lot about scaling, a lot about marketing, and it really was the pivot point, which, by the way, we did that for almost 25 years.
Wow.
And I honestly thought I was going to retire in that career as well. But 2008 happened, and selling high-end toys into high-end real estate was not the business to be in 2008.
Oh, agreed, yeah.
So it was time to make a pivot. But what I learned in that business was you can invest a lot of money and time finding your next direct customer, or you can figure out how your business helps the businesses that are already talking to your next customer. Mm-hmm. And that was the pivot we made. And that's been the foundation for everything I've done since.
Wow. So So tell me a little bit about your faith and when that kind of came in the picture and how that's led you kind of where you are now.
So I grew up in a family that definitely believed in God, believed in kind of that general sense of there is a God and we're called to be good people, but there wasn't a lot of structure to it, you know? And in fact, I would say to a certain extent, there was a certain amount of suspicion about religions. There was faith, but no religion. So I grew up always trying to be the good guy, doing the right thing, believing in God, but not really, it wasn't a central part. You know, I would have to admit that through my 20s and 30s, I was much more focused on building huge businesses and making money, even though there was always this part of me that said, yeah, but you want to do something good with it, right? Thankfully, my eyes got opened and I came to faith in the Lord. And in that process, everything that I thought mattered and everything that had motivated me to build businesses got called into question. And I realized that alignment between what I do for work and how I live my life as an individual or what my faith is, those weren't three separate areas. Mm-hmm. They had to align.
Yeah.
And I've been blessed by the fact that that's happened to me. So that really took a lot of the information that I had learned in business and through life and I started really saying to myself, all right, how do I now rebuild a business? Because my business went away in 2008, right? Mm-hmm. What am I going to do? And very intentionally, how am I going to build that reflects what we talked about at the beginning, right? Build a successful business that supports your family well, supports your team members well, serves your clients well, gives back to the community, and serves the other stakeholders and partners in that business well. And that really has driven what I have done ever since in the other businesses. You know, for example, I had a friend of mine who was a service-disabled vet who had some background in government contracting. And I had another friend who I met through church out in Colorado who was a third-generation general contractor. And that was not a great business to be in either in 2008, 2010.
Yes.
And I said, I brought them together and we literally built a real veteran-owned general contracting company that started building medical behavioral therapy centers on bases all over the West. Wow. Right? And it wasn't my business. I helped them launch it. I kind of gave them my expertise. But that was something that supported both of their teams, supported the vet, provided needed service to veterans and active duty members on military bases, got involved in helping business owners when it was time for them to sell their business, figure out how to do that. But the company that I did some consulting for, they focused on small to medium-sized businesses in small to medium-sized towns. So I would literally get into my car in Denver first Monday of the month, and I would drive 3,000 to 5,000 miles across the country, check into a hotel somewhere, meet 4 to 5 business owners in that area, figure out, do they have a business that's sellable? Who's the right person for it? Help them get it ready to sell. Find them the right buyer. A lot of times I was matching them up with veterans who were coming out of the service who wanted to move back to small towns, and a business would be perfect for them. I got more of a business education from those 3.5 years than I ever did at business school about what real businesses look like. Right?
Did you know all this about him, James?
Little bit.
I hadn't heard. I hadn't heard most of this. That's fascinating, Shea.
So ended up being tired of being on the road. Had a friend who lived in South Florida, so I moved to South Florida. Got plugged into a great church down there. Met my wife in that church. She was serving in a ministry that serves single moms. I was working with fatherless kids. We met at church. We became friends. Got married, and it's just been wonderful. And her two children that she'd done an amazing job of raising, blessed me with allowing me to step into a role there. And now both of them got married last year, and I've got two granddaughters on the way. So
Right on.
praise the Lord on that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
Very nice.
so what happened is about 6 years ago, I guess 5 or 6 years ago, the company I was working with down in Florida, South Florida, got purchased by a company from England, and it was no longer a good fit. And I talked to my wife and said, well, I think it's time to make the move. And she said, thank God. Now we can get out of out of South Florida. The kids were both up in Gainesville. And we wanted to move to Central Florida, so it was time to move up to Orlando, because that was a good spot business-wise. And I'd been approached by a friend of mine who wanted to start a business here in Orlando and knew that he needed someone like me who had experience starting businesses, business development, et cetera. So we worked through a franchise consultant and took a look at some franchises, and we actually ended up picking one that was in the junk removal business. Because bluntly, as long as whatever vertical a business is in, whatever the widget is, if you're committed to doing it ethically, doing it well, being the best in it, the systems to build a business are pretty similar.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's true.
It's working on the business, not what the business does. The widget isn't that important as long as it's God honoring.
Yeah, Bill and I talk a lot about that. We could take our knowledge and just put it in any business. And really, I mean, listen, I came from entertainment. I mean, I didn't come from construction or drywall. I mean, in part, but my business experience wasn't building home service brands. It was running business and hiring employees. But the principles are all the same. That's why I love this podcast, is because our principles, they're all the same. Don't do business in a vacuum. Make sure you find the right people that can. If you don't know, go find the person to do it. Right. So that's kind of neat. And I had on my notes, when did the wife come about? Because if you're traveling in Colorado, you're traveling, you get all these different, like, man, that had to wreak havoc on. So luckily she got to miss a lot of that.
Yes, she did. Yes, she did. And honestly, I wasn't prepared to be the husband God calls me to be until I met her. So he was gracious with me to, I had I had one failed marriage and had some relationships in the past that when they ended, it was kind of interesting. God made a big change in my life. That 2008 to 2010, the business of 25 years went away, marriage went away, everything that I thought I knew and understood went away, and he rebuilt it all and has blessed me in a huge way since then.
Right on.
So it's interesting. We got into the junk removal business with a franchise, and there was some hesitation because for me, junk removal and moving kind of went hand in hand, and that franchisor actually had planned to do that.
And that was kind of around the COVID time, right? It was.
Yep. So that was essentially 5 years ago.
Okay.
Right. So one of the reasons we chose it is because we saw that it was scalable. It was a rapidly growing franchisor, but they understood the bigger picture, right? Unfortunately, things didn't work out that well. Their timelines got extended, and so we agreed to part ways. But what it gave me was an amazing network. Orlando, I met people like James through BNI and a lot of the folks that I still partner with a lot. And what it also gave me is a very clear understanding of what the real problems that moving companies and removal repurpose companies can do, both in the residential world, in the commercial world. But for me, an area that I have deep passion for is for seniors, right? Because a lot of the things we were doing on the removal side was related to seniors that needed to downsize or families that needed to figure out what to do with home after a senior passed. And what I found was that those clients weren't being served well. They weren't being served with dignity. They weren't being served with caring. Right? I hate to say it, but we live in a culture that preys on the elderly. And that infuriated me. And it was one of the things that really led to the core of how I have built Silver Lining Home Services, to reach into that community, to wrap my arms around that community, and really be a service. You know, I think, James, you know, I lead with service and information and trust that the business will come. Right? Never going to apologize about being a capitalist. I have a family to feed. I've got a business to build, but that doesn't mean I can't do that with a servant's heart.
But seeing a need in this, listen, until I knew you, I didn't know there was a need for it, and I didn't know how to make it happen to begin with. Okay, so you have moving services, and you have junk removal services, and you got like maybe estate auction type places. But to marry a source that can do all of those things at one time. So I've got a lovely mother-in-law who, she's in her early 80s, and she's looking to transition into a different place that can, you know, she can commune with other senior citizens. She's very healthy. She has a car. She can drive. But she needs help to navigate, you know, where to find it when she does move. How is she going to get all of her stuff from one apartment to the next? Maybe she's got to downsize furniture, and it could be sensitive items. I know there's something in her storage that her father made. So how do you get rid of something that your dad made with his bare hands, you know, 100 years ago, right? So it's hard to part ways with that. And then you got other things. It's just kind of junk, but you don't want to throw it away. So when we started talking, and you started talking about how, you know, you don't take all these things to the landfill. You find a way to either donate items, maybe work with an auction company to resell them. Maybe if it's just not resellable or donatable, maybe we can recycle it. So now we're limiting the amount of stuff going to the landfills. So you're really, you know, you're feeding multiple revenue streams for other companies, and you're putting the person who's parting ways with those items, you're putting their mind at rest that it's not just going to go to some random landfill and just get destroyed. Those memories can live on in some way. So being able to we're months away, maybe a year away from planning that with my mother-in-law, but to already have a resource in line that price is right. We already talked about price, and I go, well, that's very affordable. And it just puts my mind at ease that when the time is right, I just make a phone call, we get that all taken care of. Did you know that there are over 140 million homes in the U.S.? 97% of them have walls and ceilings that are built using drywall. The drywall repair industry is simply enormous, valued at over $13 billion a year. We're hole-in-the-wall drywall repair, and for years we have been perfecting the art of repairing drywall, developing and refining our systems, and strengthening our brand. Our business model is simple, scalable, and easy to learn. We believe it's a real game changer. We are successful drywall repair pros who decided to take our repair business to a higher level, growing both our franchise training and support to industry-leading standards. You'll benefit from our vast experience helping your franchise hit the ground running and achieve success quickly. We'll give you access to our marketing team that has created strategic programs designed to get your phone ringing and booking new business fast. Join a fast-growing leader in an exciting dynamic segment of the home service industry by franchising with hole-in-the-wall drywall repair. Start building your own business and securing your own financial future today. I know you do the moving services, but the senior citizen stuff, how do you go about even finding that work? How do you go about just kind of that I mean, that's got to be something that's difficult to kind of navigate.
So I think that goes back to what I learned in some of my past businesses, right? Is if we want to be successful in business and we want to have a valid reason for referral partners referring their trusted clients to us, we need to figure out how to add value to that referral partner's business. It's not enough for me to go into a realtor's office or into an assisted living community and say, hey, we're really good at moving folks. Please trust us with that, right? I really look at it and say, what problem am I solving for that referral partner, right? So we'll loop back on the senior side, but talk about the real estate side for a second, right? It is The statistics show that a well-staged, decluttered home sells for 12% more on average and in 30% less days on market than that same home if it's not done that way, right? So I look at it and say, okay, if I'm a realtor and I can give my seller some good advice to say, hey, if you invest $600, $1,200 into downsizing and cluttering this, or if you want to spend the next 4 weekends doing it yourself, right? You're going to get a 5x, 10x return on that. And we're going to sell your house in 30% less time. As a professional realtor, I would communicate that to my seller. But now I've given them a problem, right? On the other hand, I can turn around and say, hey, give my buddy Shea a call. He's going to help you quickly go through, get everything done so that we can sell this for more money faster. Now that realtor is a hero, right? Not to mention that if the selling price has gone up 12%, what's happened to the commission, right? So it's good for everyone involved. He served the client well. He served his business well, and he's given me the opportunity to do that, to have a successful business, right? On the senior side, you're planning ahead, right? Which unfortunately a lot of folks don't, right? And suddenly they find themselves in a situation where mom or dad or grandma or grandpa aren't safe at home anymore. And now it's this mad scramble of what are we going to do to make sure that my loved one is safe, right? And so we got to go find a place to move into it, and God willing, they find the right place, right? And everyone's excited. Okay, great. We found the solution. And then they go home and they start thinking about all the things that have to happen in order to make this happen, right? Are we going to the right community? There's 176 communities in the Orlando area, all sorts of different price points, cultures, lifestyles, etc. Did we pick the right one? Right? What are we going to pay? Space planning. I literally sit down with the family and say, okay, this is what you're moving into. Let's figure out what should go in there, right? What are we going to do with what we're not taking with us? Right. And by the way, we need to do all of that with love and care and dignity, because one of the things that a lot of people don't think about is that for seniors, their world is shrinking. They're feeling a loss of control. They're letting go of memories, right? How do you do that sensitively, right?
Well, and our journey is different now. The kids nowadays, they don't care as much about some of those sentimental things. But like I said, when you've got a family member, maybe it was like there are items that these were a gift from my daughter when she was 3 years old, and I don't want to part way with that. That's something that's very sentimental to them. And downsizing, that's like, some of the hardest. You watch all those, hoarder shows, they just can't part with.
I read an article
attachment.
recently, and the emphasis of the article was your kids don't want your stuff.
But that doesn't mean it doesn't have value. And I think that's a critical part about
that's a fine point there.
Right. I had a meeting last week with a woman who is getting ready to sell her home that she lived in with her husband of 42 years. That's full of those memories. Right. When we had the discussion about donating those things, she got reasonably excited about that idea, that we can help her with that. When she got really excited, though, is when she said something interesting. She said, I'm trying to give this to people from my church and nobody wants it. Right? And I said, Maria, let me bring Judy into this. Judy is my online auction partner. We brought her in, and she's going to do an online auction. And all the proceeds for that online auction, she's going to be able to write a check to her church for and bless the ministries
Oh, how
in the
nice.
church.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden, those memories that she's letting go of are serving a purpose.
Right.
Right. Another great story. Right. We had someone who we helped move into an independent living community, and now it was time for her to move into the assisted living side, which meant that she wasn't going to have a kitchen anymore, and she had to let that kitchen table go. And that was a struggle. And one of the guys on my team said, "Ma'am, tell me about this table." And she started talking about all the homework she'd done on it with the kids, all the arts and crafts she'd done with the grandkids, right? And he told her, "Well, listen, we're going to try to donate this. And one of the charities we donate to is the Mustard Seed. And their mission is to get homeless families housed. And these homeless families don't have anything. Our goal is that there's going to be a family that's homeless now that at the end of the month is going to be in a home with your kitchen table doing homework on that table." She got so excited. She's like, "Well, do they need pots and pans? Do they need?" And she started pulling one, right? Because now there's purpose there.
Yeah.
Right. And that's one of the things I love about what we do is that we can turn those cherished memories into blessings for others and give our clients purpose with that.
Right. Yeah. And you're really connecting emotionally with your customer base. It is, I can see where it is a business that you're in that, I mean, our customers, they have a hole in their wall and they're emotional about that, but not to the degree, that, this isn't 40 years worth of doing homework on a kitchen table with your kids. And
isn't it beautiful? Isn't it
No,
beautiful
it's-
to be able to take someone during one of the more difficult times in their life and give them something to be excited and purposeful about?
yeah.
I mean, what a blessing to me that I can do it. I mean, it's funny. I shared with James one time that, everyone talks about, oh, this generation doesn't want to work. They don't care about anything. What I find very interesting is my moving teams. I mean, these guys work hard. They're young guys who move furniture, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard work.
It's hard work. And once we give them some of that emotional intelligence training that we do to equip them to be able to serve seniors well. In fact, I'm getting ready to actually there's a virtual dementia training program that I'm going to put my team through so that they have a sense of what it looks like to the clients that they're serving, right? To these. So once we give them that, they actually come to me and say, "I want to be on the senior moves."
Wow.
Because now they're not just moving furniture, they're helping grandma or
It comes
grandpa
with an additional purpose.
transition, and they get
Yeah.
really excited about
Yeah.
it, which I think is just cool.
Yeah.
That is really cool.
I'm curious though, because I really like the name of your company. Tell me how you chose that.
So as I was looking at this space, this moving, removing, downsizing space, whether it's for a growing family or a shrinking family or a senior, it's a storm, right? They're in the middle of a moving storm. We're the silver lining.
Beautiful.
And that's where the name came from.
Yeah, it's really good.
Because we really want to be the ones that take some of that stress away, that take some of those that reframe it and provide the resources to it. And I think this is an important part of what I think business owners sometimes miss is you can't do that without a good team around you. And I'm not just talking about the team of folks that work in your company. James, you alluded to this, and Bill, you and I have talked about this. A team is the other companies that wrap around your clients, right? And I don't think we're always intentional enough in, first of all, choosing who those people are, and two, really defining that mission. So as an example, I've recently put together a group called Your Complete Florida Solution. And it is designed to wrap around, we call it from empty nest to the rest, 55 on, right? Whether it's, all right, the kids are off to college or they're married and now it's time to downsize, or whether it's time to sell the house you've owned and move into a senior community, right? So I went out and I found the absolute best people in the core areas that people need help with in that. So it is Gina Brooks with Comfort Keepers, who provides help for folks when they're aging in place, whether it's in their home or in their community. So she does really well with that. Bo Herman is someone who he's a real estate agent for independent and assisted living. He literally knows all the communities, can help folks pick the right one, right? Obviously, I can handle the packing and we lovingly pack up and move what people are taking with them and remove and repurpose what they're leaving behind. I've got on Orlando Auctions, which helps them turn some of those things they're leaving behind into money they can either use to pay bills or to donate to charity. Financial advisor, attorney, real estate agent, property management company. So literally all of those decisions and all of that information you need to make an informed, dignified decision on these transitions in life.
Yeah. So you're coming into a customer's life with a complete portfolio
Absolutely.
of valued, partners that you can refer to them.
And we've taken it a step further. We're actually doing seminars. Our approach is not, hey, we're here, allow us to, hire us to solve a problem. We're actually setting up seminars in multiple locations on all of these topics so that we can go in. You can come in. We're doing one Thursday evening called Downsize and Declutter. It's all about how do you navigate that? Mm-hmm. What are the options there? Planning for the future and beyond, which is that whole chain of events. We do it on the financial and the legal side of things. Aging in place versus moving into a community, right? What do you do with a house? Sometimes it might make more sense to hold on to that house and rent it and use that money to pay for the community you're moving into. Other times it makes more sense to sell it, right? But really leading from a position of we know where the pitfalls are. We know the questions you don't even know to ask. Not only do we have the answers to them, we're going to help you ask the question, and then we're going to give you the information you need to make a wise, informed, dignified decision.
What a terrific business model, Shea.
Right.
I mean, it's so well thought out, so complete. I went in. Okay, I went in. No.
Well, believe it or not, you're part of it, right? I mean, because while hole in the wall may not be a core part of that journey, the truth of the matter is there are often times where we're serving that client, we're getting that house ready to be listed, we're getting it ready to be, and they need what you guys do. And I have you on speed dial.
Yeah, nice.
Yep.
Wow.
So
Why did it take us so long to get Shea on the program, James?
well, he's been building this business. He's had some labor struggles, but poor guy. We were on the books a couple months back, and
We were. I remember.
and then he had one of his head guys had to bail on him, which means Shea's now stuck out there driving the truck for a minute.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Hey,
like,
that's
well,
small business. You do whatever is required, don't you?
Well, when we make promises to people, we keep them.
Yeah, good for you.
And even if that means that, the 61-year-old guy has to jump on a truck sometime, thankfully I'm past that.
Yes.
I've built a phenomenal team. But James has been trying, Bill. You can't blame it on James. I'm the one who keeps saying, not yet, not yet.
yeah, in the right time.
All right.
If you don't mind, can we circle back to some of the other stuff that I want to kind of retouch on, because obviously we're franchise focused here right now. We really have a big deal. I'm curious. We talked off air, but I want to bring it back up on air about like when you were selecting your previous company, the junk removal company. Tell us that process. How did you even select that brand? How did you make up that decision? And which is funny, as all the due diligence that you did, it still didn't end up working out because of a circumstance out of your control. But just let's touch on that for just a quick moment.
So I think the first decision really was, am I a business owner? And I will say that the initial franchise consultant we worked with did go through a pretty reasonable process of saying, hey, let's figure out if you should even own a business. right? One of my favorite books is Michael Gerber's The E-Myth.
Yep,
Right.
I've read that.
It's a cornerstone. It's something I always recommend to people who think they want to own a business, whether it's buying a franchise or it's, am I really cut out to be a business owner? Or am I a technician who's exceptionally good at doing something that a business does that's just tired of having a boss, right? So having started multiple businesses, I already knew the answer to that, but at least they went through that process, right? And determined, yes, you are in fact, you and your partner are in fact business owner material, if you will. Our first criteria was whatever business it was, it had to be God honoring. It had to serve a purpose and be able to do it in a way that was ethical, high quality, high service, which honestly eliminated a lot of the franchises that were out there. And then we went through kind of our experience, our background, the type of business we wanted to be. And they came up with a couple of different verticals, and we kind of went through those. And then once we settled on a consumer services model, they presented us with multiple options there. It's hard. Honestly, it's hard because you only get a certain amount of information from the FDD. You get a certain amount of information from the carefully curated people that they allow you to talk to who are existing franchisees. But you get a sense of it. You get a sense of what the culture was. And I liked the culture of the franchise that we ended up picking. I did have some concerns about it because their main focus was strictly on the junk removal side, which they addressed by saying, yes, but we recognize that the moving side of it is a natural component of it. And we are going to bring that component on. And that ultimately is where the problem lay, because their timeline did not match my timeline. I will also tell you that when choosing a franchise, you need to make sure that the market that you're in is well matched to how that franchise is built. In our case, it was a franchise out of the Northeast that we pretty rapidly discovered really didn't have a handle on the geographic differences, the market differences for the Florida market. And so those two things are kind of what led to it. I think that a wise potential franchisee needs to go into it with their eyes very wide open, needs to get in with the people who are crafting the vision and the passion for that. I mean, I know your franchisees have an amazing benefit in that here's the company that you two built, that you have a vision for, that you have a long track record with, and you have a really clear understanding of whether someone's going to be successful or not. And because of your values, I know that you are the sort of folks that are going to look at someone and say, you know what? I don't think this is a good fit for you if you don't think it's a good fit. This is not corporate franchising, which unfortunately a lot of franchises are. Yeah. It's much more about, can we churn the numbers? Can we get people in and just let them die on the vine if they're not cut up for it? So one of the reasons why I chose to do Silver Lining after that experience is I realized that I wasn't the perfect franchisee. In that, I have very strong feelings about what a business should look like, what a business should do, how it should be done. So putting me in a franchise box ultimately wasn't a wise decision. So I don't know if that addresses
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
Yeah, no.
So I've noticed some trends from your companies, and I'll go all the way back to high school when you started your lawn care business, and then at the end you had 18 high school students that were working for you. So obviously scalability is key. When you were with Bang & Olufsen, it's you grew from one store to 15. So scaling is a big deal for growth in the company. That's kind of what we talk about with our franchises. You want to make more money, you got to scale. Well, how do you scale? For us, it's you buy another truck, you do some more business development, maybe you buy another territory nearby. But for you, you've been able to really learn how to scale in a way. Now that you're starting kind of over again, I mean, frankly, you've built these multi-million-dollar companies, and now you're back where you were literally just a few weeks ago driving a truck, you know, and it's kind of humbling to think, well, full circle, right? But what's next for Silver Lining? By the way, I see Silver Lining, I think of silver hair. So
Yeah, I know, right?
senior. But what is like? Have you thought about building Silver Lining into a brand that you could potentially become a franchisor down the road, or have you thought about how what's your next level of scale that you can take this business?
Absolutely. In fact, one of the reasons why I started Silver Lining is because I wanted to build a company that was scalable, that was reproducible, whether it be in another market or simply expanding market share. So I really took a look at, having experienced what I did with 2008 on building a business that was very much a product that was luxury as opposed to a necessity, and frankly was reliant on the property developers. We did work with the Ritz-Carlton, we did MGM Skylofts, things like that, major projects which I had no control over. So when they turned the switch off, my business turned off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So I looked at it and I said, I want something that is sustainable, is needed, is underserved or not well served, that is simple enough to be teachable, so you can build a team that can execute well on your promises, right? That I could take, and Orlando, honestly, this is the proof of concept. And thankfully, I've been blessed by the fact that it's going well.
Nice.
Right?
Well, and you're in a senior environment. There's a ton of senior environment. You know.
Well, it's also, because remember, yes, seniors is a big part of what we do, but there's also the residential move side, right?
Yeah.
And some friends of mine said, wait a second, you started a moving company just as interest rates skyrocketed to 7.5%, inventory disappeared, and house sales cratered, right? How are you surviving? Well, the senior part of it is driven by need,
Yeah.
right, not desire. But even in that environment, we've very successfully been building our residential move side because we do a better job and we offer more tools. We offer those realtors more tools in their toolbox. So to answer your question, yeah, I see this definitely as a business model that I think the next step is going to be to open up another office somewhere here in Florida, maybe Ocala or the Space Coast or something like that. And then once we've really proven that, one, we're really good at what we do and we do it differently. Two, it's replicatable. Then absolutely, I see this as something that I would like to roll out statewide, perhaps wider. That's down the road a little bit.
I can see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that with you at the helm, there's the ability to really kind of scale this kind of quickly. So I can see the Villages, Ocala area easily being a good step. I've got family, St. Petersburg, Clearwater. That's a big retirement community down there.
Absolutely.
Lots of moving going on down there. Lots of growth in Tampa. Tons of people moving around there. So,
And a lot of these 65 million baby boomers are arriving at your doorstep. They're ready.
I call it the silver tsunami.
yeah,
Absolutely. That's
it's
well
coming.
put.
Yeah,
Well
it's
put.
coming. Well, Shea, if our listeners want to get a hold of you, they want to reach out to you, what is the best way for them to reach out to you?
Three ways. One, if they're more interested on the business side and connecting with me on how to build businesses, LinkedIn. Shea Sen on LinkedIn.
SEN?
Yep, SEN. And my cell phone number, 407-801-3931. And email Shea, that's SHEA at silverlininghs.com.
Love it. Anything else? So glad you're here today.
I'm
Yeah,
just
thanks.
excited to spend some time chatting with good friends who have the same heart for business as I do, both in terms of where they're coming from and what they're trying to build. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for taking the time to come out and sit down a while.
Yeah.
It's been an hour well spent, hasn't it?
Yeah, we'll do it again. That was great. Thank you, Shea. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Really good show. We'd like to thank you for listening to the Hole in the Wall Business Podcast with Bill and James. We'd love for you to join our Facebook group and keep the conversation going. If you'd like to learn more about us and our business, check us out at holeinthewall.com. If you'd like to learn more about how to start a Hole in the Wall franchise, go to holeinthewallfranchising.com.